Good morning, dear Dhamma friends. This morning we share going to study about effects of Akusala Kammas, effects of Karmarvarcara-Kusala Kammas, and effects of Rupa-Jharna-Kusala Kamma from page 165, page 166, and page 167. So, before we study about Lord Buddha Abhidhammar, we shall pay homage Namo Tassa to Lord Buddha. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Effects of Akusala Kammas. The 11 Akusala Cittanas, the weak Cittana associated with Udecca Sampayutta Citta being accepted. At Patisandhi Kala produce Akusala Vibhaka Sandirana Citta, which forms the Apaya Patisandhi in the four woeful abodes. All the 12 Akusala Cittanas at Pavati Kala produce 7 Akusala Vibhaka Cittas. In the 11 karma planes, they produce 4 Akusala Vibhaka Cittas with the exception of Ghana Vijnana, Jiva Vijnana, and Kaya Vijnana. In 15 Rupa planes, excluding Asanya Saddha Ram. Effects of Karmarvarcara-Kusala Kamma. First, there are 2 types Karmarvarcara-Kusala Kamma, Dvihetuka and Tihetuka. Dvihetuka Kamma is again divided into 2 subgroups, Ukata and Omaka. Similarly, Tihetuka Kamma is divided into 2 subgroups, Ukata and Omaka. So, taking all together, we get 4 subgroups. Now, for Jnana Vipayutta Mahakusala Citta gives rise to 4 Dvihetuka Mahakusala Kammas, whereas for Jnana Sampayutta Mahakusala Citta gives rise to 4 Tihetuka Mahakusala Kammas. As the 4 Dvihetuka Mahakusala Kammas can be either Omaka or Ukata, we get. First, 4 Dvihetuka Omaka Mahakusala Kammas, and second, 4 Dvihetuka Ukata Mahakusala Kammas. Similarly, from 4 Dvihetuka Mahakusala Kammas, we get that 4 Dvihetuka Omaka Mahakusala Kammas and 4 Dvihetuka Ukata Mahakusala Kammas. Of the 4 subgroups, first is the poorest, second and third are somewhat equal, and 4 is the best. The effects they produce are as follows. First, the 4 Dvihetuka Omaka Mahakusala Kammas at Patisandhi Kala produce Kusala Vibhaka Upekha Sandirana Citta, which forms Kamma-Sukkhati Ahetuka Patisandhi in the human realm and the lower Chaturmarajika realm. At Pavati Kala, they produce 8 Ahetuka Kusala Vibhaka Cittas in the 11 karma planes, in the 15 Rupa planes with the exception of Asanya Saddha Ram. They produce 5 Ahetuka Kusala Vibhaka Cittas, expecting Ghana Vijnana, Jiva Vijnana, and Kaya Vijnana. Second and third, the 4 Dvihetuka Ukata Mahakusala Kamma and the 4 Tihetuka Omaka Mahakusala Kammas at Patisandhi Kala produce 4 Jnana Vipayutta Mahavibhaka Cittas, which form 4 Kamma-Sukkhati Dvihetuka Patisandhi in the 7 Kamma-Sukkhati planes. At Pavati Kala, they produce 8 Ahetuka Kusala Vibhaga Cittas and 4 Jnana Vipayutta Maha Vibhaga Cittas in the 7 Kammas-Readed plane. They produce 8 Ahetuka Kusala Vibhaga Cittas in the 4 Apaya planes. They produce 5 Ahetuka Kusala Vibhaga Cittas, excluding Ghana Vinyana, Jingwa Vinyana, and Kaya Vinyana, in the 15 Rupa planes with the exception of the Asinya Sada Ram. 4. The 4 Hetuka Ukata Mahakusala Kammas at Patisandi Kala produce 4 Jnana Sampayutta Mahavibhaga Cittas, which form 4 Kammas-Readed Hetuka Patisandi in the 7 Kammas-Readed planes. At Pavati Kala, they produce 8 Ahetuka Kusala Vibhaga Cittas and 8 Mahavibhaga Cittas in the 7 Kammas-Readed planes. They produce 8 Ahetuka Kusala Vibhaga Cittas in the 4 Apaya planes, and they produce 5 Ahetuka Kusala Vibhaga Cittas, excluding Ghana Vinyana, Jingwa Vinyana, and Kaya Vinyana, in the 15 Rupa planes with the exception of the Asinya Sada Ram. Next lesson, effects of Rupa-Vajra-Kusala Kamma. Among Chanda, Chitta, Viriya, and Pinya, which associate with Jhana Cittas, one usually becomes predominant adipati. Based on the quality of this predominant factor, the jhana can be differentiated as Parita inferior, Mijjhima moderate, and Panita superior. Number 1. Parita. First jhana Kusala Kamma gives birth in Brahma Parisaja, wrong with the first jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Mijjhima first jhana Kusala Kamma gives birth in Brahma Purohita, wrong with first jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Panita first jhana Kusala Kamma gives birth in Maha Brahma, wrong with first jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Number 2. Parita second jhana Kusala Kamma and Parita third jhana Kusala Kamma get birth in the Paritaba, wrong with second jhana Vibhaga Chitta and third jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness respectively, and then a life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Mijjhima second jhana Kusala Kamma and Mijjhima third jhana Kusala Kamma give birth in the Appamana Bhav, wrong with second jhana Vibhaga Chitta and third jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness respectively, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Panita second jhana Kusala Kamma and Panita third jhana Kusala Kamma give birth in the Abhasara realm with second jhana Vibhaga Chittas and third jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness respectively, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Number 3. Parita fourth jhana Kusala Kamma gives birth in Parita Subha, wrong with fourth jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Mijjhima fourth jhana Kusala Kamma gives birth in Appamana Subha, wrong with fourth jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Panita fourth jhana Kusala Kamma gives birth in Subhakena, wrong with fourth jhana Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. 4. Number 4. VITHIMUTA Kamma gives birth in the vehicular round wave. VITHIMUTA Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. After attaining the VITHIMUTA, if one practices Sanya Viraga Bhavana meditation, which develop no desire for possession and consciousness to completion, then this karma will give birth in Asanya realm with material rebirth, Rupa Patisandi. Kusala karma in Anagami person gives birth in the Sudavasa plane with Vibhaga Chitta as rebirth consciousness, and then as life continent, and finally as death consciousness. Here again, depending on the predominant faculty, rebirth takes place in the five Sudavasa planes as follows: A. Predominant faculty or Saddha, faith, Aviha, realm. B. Predominant faculty or Viriya, effort, Adabha, realm. C. Predominant of faculty or Sati, mindfulness, Suddhasa, realm. D. Predominant faculty or Samadhi, concentration, Suddhasi, realm. E. Predominant faculty or Pinya, wisdom, Akanita, realm. That's about affairs of Akusala Kammas, affairs of Karmarvarcara-Kusala Kamma, and affairs of Rupa-Jharna Kusala Kammas. Thank you for listening.